We are 4 days past 70.3 Boulder.
It's even hard for me to wrap my head around, actually, how much has passed and transpired since Boulder.
Like what?
Healthy eating, my friend. It is the age-old secret. It's a secret.
Do you think a lot of your competitors are laughing at you right now, being like, "Oh, Lionel, you just now figured this out"?
I don't care what they are doing. They can do whatever they want. I don't care. I mean, I would say most of my competitors are eye roll and be like, "Guy, you're washed up. Just shut up. Stop making YouTube videos." That's probably what most of my competitors think. But I'm coming for you. You mark my words on that. I'm coming for every fucking one of you. Every one of you.
Okay, are you happy with what transpired in Boulder and how much?
I wouldn't say Boulder was a mistake. I went into Boulder, literally my goal was to gather a data point. I'd never raced at altitude. I had only been to altitude last summer in Flagstaff. And most definitely, Flagstaff was hard, particularly in the water. Like I literally rolled over onto my back and had to do backstroke multiple times mid-interval because I was hypoxic. And so Boulder was just an opportunity to gather another data point. Why did I want to gather a data point at a race that's not really in my goals or anything? Just purely out of interest in learning and growth. And yeah, I gathered that data point, and I would say my numbers are very much in line with what you would expect, you know, not having any altitude adaptation. I pushed 351 in Gulf Coast 3 weeks prior, and I pushed 330 on the bike in Boulder, which is like a 5% drop in performance. And it was the science or whatever says for every 1,000 feet of altitude gain, you drop approximately 1%. And so then I was right in line with what one would expect having not done any preparations. Right when the gun went, I immediately knew that this was going to be an individual day and a difficult day. I was dropped immediately from the group, the big main group, and I just rode the hypoxia line the entire time. And I knew that I swam quite well because I actually bridged the gap back to the group in front of me with about 300 or 400 to go. And then I was comfortably in that group till the finish. And then, of course, as an eternal optimist, as an athlete, I thought maybe I could give Sam a run for his money, but that was like probably the most unrealistic goal that I could have set for myself, particularly on that course and those conditions. And I literally got dropped in transition, and that was the end of the race, and so the end of trying to win the race. And so then it was just an individual day, an individual effort the whole day. I went through 28 miles in 58:30, and my goal was to get through 56 in 1:57, and that's literally exactly what I did. So I rode a nice even split, 330 average. Came off the bike with Matt Sharp, Chris Leiferman, and I thought Sam Appleton was with us, but I guess he got a penalty or something and had to stop with like a mile to go or something.
He got a penalty because he didn't want to cross the center line.
Yeah, I mean, Sam Appleton getting a penalty is pretty funny because I know Sam Appleton's not a guy who's trying to draft dudes. He's definitely a guy who's trying to get a gap on the bike and use the bike as a weapon. So anyhow, came off with those guys. And yeah, I knew it was going to be tough. It never really felt good. I just felt like I had one gear all day, and I just rode that gear all day. And Matt Sharp had me under pressure. Many times I had to drop back. You know, I don't really want to suck wheel or whatever, suck shoe too much. You know, I like to go toe to toe with people, side by side. I don't want to be trying to suck, have him break the air, but I truly was under pressure for a long time. And then I think I started to come around a bit, and then I started to feel him out a bit on the second half and started to put in a couple of surges on the more gravelly section. And he wasn't going to be shook. And then we got a time gap actually to Leiferman, and he was with us, and then he was probably down to almost a minute at one point behind. And then all of a sudden we got a time gap that he's 15 seconds back, so obviously he came back from the dead. And then when he caught us, he did a big surge to go by, and It's just my natural, wiring is such that I have to go and have to try at least. And so that's what I did, and I just tried to keep up as long as I could. Then I got up next to him for a little bit, and then I cramped up. I think I was doing too much sugar, no water whatsoever. A combo of the Morton and the Scratch. I just had too much without any water to dilute it, and I just started to cramp a bit. So then he gapped me probably about 10 meters, and that allowed me to focus back in on myself and stretch out my diaphragm and my abdominals a bit. And then once I was able to get a full breath in, then I came back again from the dead, and there was just one final climb we were on, and I knew that if I didn't bridge the gap by the end of that climb, it was going to be totally game over. So I bridged the gap by the top of that climb, and then I felt him out a little bit on the climb, and I felt like my power was a bit more than his on the hill. And so I knew I had probably good odds in the sprint, and so I left it to the final 100. And then we started sprinting, and we had to go elbows and fight for road. And it's always fun when you're in a good sprint battle. And I was able to open up a gap with about 50 meters to go. And so another sprint for second place. Yay me.
Are you happy with the result?
I couldn't have achieved any more than that on that day, in that place, with that competition. I could not have done any better. So I am happy with my performance and my focus on the day. Am I satisfied? 0%. Will I go back and race Sam Long in his hometown? Probably not, at least not without a specific preparations. It's the best I could have done with the preparations that I did.
How much training did you get done between St. George and Boulder?
Between Gulf Coast and Boulder?
Yeah, Gulf Coast with your new nutrition plan.
I didn't want to increase the volume too much too fast, because that's how you get injured. But I put in some really good, I got in 9.5 hours. So I did 2 weeks. I went back to a 1 week build, normal work week. I train Monday to Saturday. I take Sunday off. And so week 1, I swam 20K, biked 9.5 hours, and ran 90K. Week 2, I swam 20K, biked 9 hours, 45 minutes, and ran 95K. So those are okay volumes, it's quite a bit higher volumes than I'd been doing all season. I absorbed them though. That's the real important part. And I think the major way how you can gauge whether the volume is still optimal is how you're swimming. Swimming, I think, especially as a weak swimmer, I don't think we use it enough as a tool. Of course, you need to swim and train and blah, 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 but swimming also is a great indicator of how much fatigue you're carrying. And I think when you start to deteriorate in the water, there's no better indicator than that you've actually gone a bit over your capacity to handle the training that you're doing. So I swam well every single set in those 2 weeks, which means to me you can do more volume. And I went back and I reviewed when I was doing really well, when I was strong, when I was able to push 360 on the bike and run 110 off of it pretty easily. And I just was at significantly higher volumes than I was. I wasn't necessarily doing like a ton more intensity, but I was at a much higher volume and still doing good intensity. And so that's the biggest thing that I have seen as I went back and analyzed when I was doing well. The reality is I wasn't able to do that anymore. The way I was eating, I wasn't able to do that anymore, and that has just deteriorated year over year over year. My capacity to do that has gotten worse and worse and worse. Now that I'm eating better, I have never got back to training as fast as I got back to training after Boulder. I did a full bike workout with 80 minutes at 380 or higher on the bike, for instance, on Tuesday. The race was Saturday. And then I did a high-end run workout on Wednesday and ran well. That's the fastest I've ever got back to training, and the only thing I did was prioritize recovery. Can you believe it that after a race, I have never prioritized recovery in my entire career? After a race, I usually take it as a week of eat as horrible as you want and don't take care of yourself, because now you get a break. And we need to celebrate by, not thinking about recovery whatsoever. So this time I prioritized recovery, and hey, who would have thunk it? I recovered really fast. So that's the name of the game. I mean, there's no secrets. I tried to reinvent the wheel forever, and now I've gotten back to exactly what I knew already as a college runner, what I learned, which is, for the most part, he who can do the most volume and the best intensity within that volume and do it most frequently is he who wins. And that's the secret. That is the secret, and that's the secret for swimming, biking, and running. You talk to all the top tier guys in every sport, that for the most part is the secret.
Clearly, you're not on the top of the podium like you'd want to be or like what you're used to, and you're definitely not used to staying on second place, especially.
God, I've got like 1 million second place. What do you mean? I did 5, how many Ironmans did I do? I did 5 Ironmans in a row and finished second.
Well, it's been about 3. It's been about 3 to
In fact,
4
I'd
years
say
of
it is the common theme here is second. Second place is the theme.
Is it burning inside you?
I think sometimes now when I talk to people, I think people like think like I'm getting discouraged or something. But I would say I'm actually the most encouraged. I'm the most confident I've ever been in my entire career in myself and in my knowledge base. And I know that I can be the best in the world. I know I can, and I'm going to be. And I believe that deep in my being. I got beat by 5 minutes, and I still believe that. And I will make it happen. I will manifest it. So, no, I'm burning with confidence, in fact. When I look at what I've been doing and how well I've done, I'd say it's quite impressive. If you looked at my training, compared it to the guys who I race, and looked at my eating and compare it to the guys I race, I think you'd be very impressed. And so now I'm going to get on their level.
Boulder today, your Ironman 70.3 Boulder in a sprint finish to the finish line.
Lionel Sanders takes second, and Chris Lieberman from Longmont finishes third. What a fantastic race.